I've been looking forward to this interview for some time, especially given the last-minute drama. I'm talking about a chat with Sean O'Brien. He is the Teamsters General President. We've talked to him many times over the years, and he speaks his mind. That's why I'm a little surprised by this news today that the Teamsters will not be officially endorsing a presidential candidate. So I thought to myself, Neil, when you talk to Sean, ask him how a guy who was invited to speak before Republicans at their convention but didn't get the same honor at the Democratic convention could decide not to support the Republican nominee. And here he is, Sean O'Brien. Good to have you, Sean. Why not? Why not Donald Trump?
How are you, sir? Well, listen, we interviewed both candidates, and we were seeking commitments from both candidates, and we couldn't get solid commitments on our core issues like the PRO Act, like vetoing national right to work, like staying out of labor disputes and not trying to force any contracts on us, like what happened to our brothers and sisters in the rail industry. We didn't get solid commitments from either candidate, which was a major factor in our decision as a General Executive Board not to endorse any candidate. Hehowever, we did a lot of polling, as you know, and the polling leaned heavily towards former President Trump. So that tells you that
very heavily, Sean. And I'm just wondering, do you look disconnected from your members?
No, we're definitely not disconnected from our members because, look, we did extensive polling that was important. Our goal as leaders, as union leaders, as leader of the Teamsters, is to provide the ability for people to have a voice and to provide credible information. And we cannot dictate to our members. Our members are sophisticated. They're going to make their own decisions. But this is a bigger problem. You know, the Democrats have always taken for granted that they're going to get our vote no matter what. And the Republicans are fancying themselves as the working people's party. I think right now both sides have to take a step back and really reevaluate what their commitment is to working people. And that's what we did in this process.
All right, but it does make me wonder when 2 out of 3 of your members prefer Donald Trump. Now, it's a telephone survey, I grant that, but that trend has been around for a while where members tend to favor more the Republican candidate than the Democratic candidate, but that's a pretty overwhelming shutout right there. So
well, I think
did that come into your thinking or no?
We evaluated everything. We evaluated the straw poll, which was done in person, which, as you know, when you have an audience, you can influence that audience. We figured that was going to lean heavily towards President Biden, and it didn't lean heavily towards him. And then we did the poll where 40,000 of our members participated in that. That's a 60% poll, the other 58% poll that you see. And then we did the research-based polls. And you know, 2 out of those 3 polls leaned Republican. So again, I'll get back to there's a lot of work that got to be done. Our members are paying attention, and again, a no endorsement I think sends a message to both parties that if they truly want to support working people, they have to reevaluate it and understand that nothing is given; it is earned.
All right, I don't mean to disrespect here, but no endorsement also means you can have it both ways. And you're not taking a stand.
No, we're not looking to have it both ways at all. I take a stand every day. I call balls and strikes. You know, there's some great Democrats that supported us. President Biden, passed pension legislation that fixed our pensions. But the reality of it is, again, I've said this time and time again, they fixed problems that were created a long time ago. Trucking deregulation cost 400,000 Teamster jobs. Companies went into bankruptcy, which destroyed pension funds. So, you know, although they fixed the problem, you know, some of us created those problems that had to be fixed. And, you know, look, it's different times. Our members are different. A lot of people, there's a lot of social issues out there where sometimes our members are focused clearly on the social issues. Not taking a position is not having it both ways. This country is divided down the middle. It's my goal, just like we've done with our union, is to bring this together, work bipartisan, and get some stuff done, like the PRO Act, like bankruptcy reform, and other issues that affect our members.
You know, did this turn in any way, Sean? I think you were critical of President Trump after his interview where he was going back and forth with Elon Musk and others about when you can fire or get rid of workers, and that he admired that ability. And you were quite vehement about it. And I just thought that might have represented a turning point.
Yeah, I mean, obviously words have consequences, right? Statements have consequences. And I will, you know, I called former President Trump out, just like I would call anybody else that tries to retaliate or make fun of people being terminated for exercising their right to strike. But when we asked both candidates in the presidential forum roundtables about supporting our railway workers and workers that are under the RLA to strike and not interfere, we couldn't get strong commitments from either candidate. So, you know, that was a major factor in our decision making. But back to your point, unacceptable for anybody to fire workers for exercising their right and or gloat about it.
So
it's no secret, I'm not a big fan of Elon Musk.
Okay, that I do remember. But let me then step back and get your thoughts on that relationship, because Elon Musk apparently might have a great sway in a potential Trump administration. And even when it comes to looking at the government books and looking at how the government spends its money, did that weigh in?
Yeah, I mean, look, we can't look to see ghosts. I've got 1.3 million of the strongest people in the world, and that's our rank and file members. And, you know, although there may be a difference of opinions or there may be criticisms, if we have to go to fight with corporate America and the Elon Musk of the world, I like my chances.
Okay, so let me just get a sense of where you go from here. Because your colleagues at other unions, by and large, have been going hook, line, and sinker for Kamala Harris. And I know your members, when polled on this, and I know these can be erratic polls, they're not scientific polls, I know how they go, liked Joe Biden a lot more than Kamala Harris. Is that true?
Joe Biden, I think they polled consistently in our polls. I can't speak for anything else. But, you know, they polled about 25% to 30% popularity with our members consistently.
So I'm sorry, compared to President Trump, though, he scored higher, did he not?
He scored higher, he did, yes.
Okay, Kamala Harris does not.
No, she does not.
So they're not psyched about her, they're more psyched about Donald Trump.
I don't think they're psyched about both candidates. You know, there's issues that are specific to what our members want and need. And, you know, this polling wasn't just a vote. There were issues and questions posed within this polling that our members asked. So, you know, I think this process, and I guess, you know, I'll get back to, you know, people are sick of it. People are sick of the name calling. People are sick of tearing each other apart because they support one candidate versus the other. And I think it's just, you know, people are fed up and they want it over with. I want it over with, to be honest with you. We do great work. We negotiate the strongest contracts. We're organizing thousands of members each month. That's what our focus needs to be on.
All right, AFL-CIO, United Auto Workers Union, they're strong Democrat. They're going for Kamala Harris. Service workers, maybe because of Donald Trump and you know, the original proponent of getting rid of the tax on tips seems to lean his way. Is this an opportunity missed? Do you think you made a statement by not making a statement one way or the other for either candidate?
It's not an opportunity missed as far as we're concerned. It's an opportunity to obviously highlight that there's a problem politically with union members. And look, I polled my members. I released the data. I don't interfere in any other unions or their policies or procedures. But I can only speak for the Teamsters union. We're going to be transparent. And you know, I can't speak. If there's going to be criticisms from my peers in the labor movement, so be it. Our mission still stays the same. We're going to be transparent and inclusive of the rank and file members.
All right. You didn't get a chance to speak to Democrats at their convention. You did to Republicans at their convention. Does any of that stick in your craw a little bit that you know, you guys, I went the extra mile and you turned me down?
You know, my feelings don't get hurt easily, and they weren't hurt because I didn't get invited to the DNC. I went to the RNC with one agenda, and that was to highlight how important the American worker and the Teamster member is to this country. It wasn't an endorsement of either party, and if I had the opportunity to speak at the DNC, the message would have been the same. Look, it's about fighting corporate America, fighting corporate greed, and holding politicians accountable. At the end of the day, you know, I've been told recently by Democrats and Republicans everything they do for us, and I appreciate it. But just like anything else, that's their job. That's what we elect them to do, and that's what they should be focused on. They shouldn't be telling us what they've done for us in the past. They should be focused on what they're going to do for us in the future.
All right, I'm reflecting on that one telephone poll. I don't mean to belabor it, Sean, but you're going to have a lot of angry members, I would assume. How are you dealing with it?
We're going to have some angry members, there's no doubt. But we're going to have some happy members as well. Remember, our union is different. We're 50-50 right down the middle. So either way, we're going to take criticism. And, you know, this is a small portion of what our job is as union leaders in the Teamsters Union. Don't forget, we've got to organize members. We've got to negotiate the strongest contracts, what we have done. We've set industry standards. So, you know, at the end of the day, we're going to continue to fulfill the mission that we've been doing for 2.5 years under our leadership. So
very quickly on this, I think you have to go back, you know, to around 1996 when your union didn't commit to someone. Is this a rarity then? Will you, 4 years from now, be less inclined to repeat a no support statement?
Well, 1996, obviously, that was a result of NAFTA, North American Free Trade Agreement. So that, you know, that was a great reason.
Right.
Now we took
Bill
a position.
Clinton was president, right?
But this should be an eye-opener for 2028. If people want the support of the most powerful union in North America, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, start doing some things to support our members.
Sean O'Brien, a real pleasure. Thank you very much. The Teamsters General President speaking his mind. We'll see the fallout from this because it is coming in fast and crazy as I was talking to Sean, but I can't repeat some of these things. It's a family show. A little more after this.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.